All right, welcome back, everybody. I am your host, Nick Gomez. This is the Lions Pit podcast. With me today is my guest and good friend, Hannah Black, one of our former coaches over at On It Gym and now CrossFit athlete. How you feeling?
Feel pretty good. Today's my rest day, so that's
nice.
good.
Yeah,
Made it
any
to Thursday.
plans?
I don't do much on Thursdays. Like a lot of people use their activity trackers to see how many steps they can make, but on Thursdays I limit myself to 3,000 steps.
Yeah, do a little active recovery?
I do that usually. I mean, sometimes I'll do it on Thursday, sometimes I do it on Sunday. Just depends.
Yeah.
I'm feeling pretty beat up today, so probably won't.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Training's going pretty hard right now?
Yeah, so I qualified for a couple of competitions in the off season, so we've been training super hard for those, and then also coming back from being on a team to going to individual. It's a little bit of a different stimulus, so trying to get used to that again.
Very nice. Yeah, what's the name of the team you're with?
I was with Invictus Unconquerable, so it was out of Invictus San Diego, but there was two teams, so we were the second team.
Oh, nice. And so y'all were just up in Fort Worth, correct?
Yeah, Fort Worth, August. I think it was 7th through the 11th.
Yeah, nice. How was that? Was that your first official CrossFit Games event that you've ever
that was
done?
the first time. I've never even been to watch, so that was my first time ever. To be honest, not the best experience. Yeah, there were someone died the first day.
Yeah, I wanted, that was I never really plan questions ahead of time, because like I said, I like to keep it very conversational on the episodes. So nobody that I've talked to where I have planned questions, but that was the only thing I wanted to ask you about. I was like, I don't care where the conversations go. I do want to know on the athlete side of things, A, what were they telling you? B, and also let's also just tell everybody what happened. But what was it? What was the mood, and what were officials telling you guys? Because there was talks that they're just going to cancel the games altogether.
Yeah. Right. Honestly, it was a pretty terrible situation all around. We got there to check in on Wednesday, and everyone's super excited because you work for so long to make it there, and everyone's super pumped. And then on Thursday morning, the individuals, so 30 men, 30 women. Lined up. We were outside at a local lake pond thing. And they ran, I don't remember the distance that they ran. I think it was 3 miles, maybe a 5K or something.
Yeah.
And then they were supposed to swim, I think it was 1,000 meters, maybe 2,000 meters. I don't know. It was a long run into a long swim.
Yeah.
And we're in Texas in August. But it wasn't that hot in the morning because it's cooler in the mornings. And so the men and women went together, they started all at the same time. And so they're running through the course and swimming through the water and stuff. And then we were supposed to start right after they were out of the water. So
the individuals?
So the teams lined up. We got to the start mat of the run because our event was a run into a 4-person paddleboard.
Nice.
Yeah, the paddleboard was massive and very hard to control. So we're all teams, because there's only one heat, are lined up on this mat. So 30 teams times 4 people, a lot of people.
Yeah, 120.
So we're standing there, and I remember because you have to pick one person to start first, and since I'm the slowest, it was me. So I'm on the start mat.
You're the slowest?
Yeah. I am not known to do anything fast.
But the strongest.
Besides eat. I don't do anything fast. Yeah, so I'm standing there on the start mat and have my hand on my watch so I can watch my pace. And they got to where they were 30 seconds. So we're all standing there.
No way.
And then in my head, I was counting, and it was more than 30 seconds. So I was standing there about to go. And then they were okay, we're delayed. And we're okay, maybe they were streaming it on ESPN. So maybe something happened, whatever. So we go back to our teams, we're kind of standing there, and they were 3 minutes. And we're okay. So we're standing there, and something was weird because there were a lot of volunteers, because they all wear the same t-shirt, running around us, which I was that's weird. Maybe they saw a snake in the water.
Or they seem frantic almost.
Yeah, it was just, no one was frantic at this point, but something was going on.
Something was clearly
so we were
going on,
that's weird. And so we're standing there watching, and then one of the volunteers that was on a bike was busting it, hits a rock or something, falls off his bike, and we were all oh my gosh, is that guy okay?
Is this why we're delayed because of him?
Yeah, maybe. And then the point where we were like, okay, something actually really bad is happening is when the volunteers started to like go through the bushes and like look towards the water line. And we were like, okay, either there's something like bad in the water or someone like went off the course and is, you know, like on the bank or something. And so we were just standing there for what felt like ever. It was probably like 20 minutes in real time. And
That's
then,
still a long time because, I mean, you're probably starting to cool down.
Yeah, exactly. And so they kept telling us like 5 more minutes or like this and that. And then finally they just didn't say anything. And we heard someone saying that they lost a swimmer. And we were like, what? That's crazy. Like, that could never happen.
Right, yeah.
And so we're kind of waiting to hear back from whoever said that. And then finally, some of the athletes started talking and said, someone has gone missing. And we didn't know that that was like that big of a deal at that point because we were like, oh, he just went off the course or his chip timer on his ankle fell off. Like, he's not actually missing. They just don't know where it is.
Yeah.
And then after that, they told us all to go back to the tent that we had been warming up in. So we all went back. And that's when it was like, okay, something like really bad happened because there was like a few ambulances there. There were police officers, and people were like frantic at that point.
Yeah.
And so later on, before we left, we had heard that Lazar Dukic had gone missing. And it was weird because he was in like second place in that event. And so he should have come out of the water 30, 45 minutes before any of that happened. They evacuated everyone from the venue, told us all to go home, didn't tell us really anything. And then a couple of hours after that, we heard the news that they found his body at the bottom of the lake.
Wow.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah, I bet.
Then after that, Dave Castro called a meeting.
Who's Dave Castro?
I don't know his title, like some like CEO of games or like head.
He's with CrossFit Games or
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
He's like one of the head guys for CrossFit Games, which is like the competitive side of CrossFit. And he called us all into the stadium for a meeting, and basically we got there. Also, other part of this story, so Lazar's twin brother, Luca, also was at the CrossFit Games.
Like competing?
Competing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
I didn't know that.
That's like the worst part out of all of it because he was like getting out of the water asking people where his brother was because his brother was ahead of him because his brother was like actually favored to win this event because he's such a strong swimmer. And so no one knew where Lazar was. And so Luca was the one that was like, where's my brother? Where's my brother? And then obviously they, what happened. Yeah, so that was probably like the worst part of all of it. And so then we get into this meeting and Dave Castro was like, I talked to Luca, Lazar's brother, and he said that he would want the games to go on.
Yeah.
And we were all like, okay, like if he, you know, like gives his blessing, then like we'll stay and compete. Also, side note to all of this, even if you're like 10th place at the games, you get like a decent amount of money. So there's like money on the table.
Yeah, for sure.
And a lot of these people that are doing this like make their money that way. So it was more of like a, do I compete or not? Like,
yeah, that's tough.
Yeah. So we were all like, okay, well, if he said that he wants the games to go on, then like we should honor him and like do whatever we can to support that. So we stayed. Come to find out, that was a lie. It was not true. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Dave talked to Luca and Luca said something along the lines of like, I'm not in the position to make this decision.
Yeah.
And Dave took that with whatever.
Translated it completely wrong.
Yeah. And so that like kind of stung figuring that out after the fact.
Right, yeah.
And I was in a different position. I was on a team, so it's not like even if I felt strongly one way or another, like I'm on a team, like I'm one of 4. So I would have really ultimately let the decision come to like my team and what we all thought together. But yeah, hearing that after the fact was not great.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, so it was a terrible experience all in all.
Yikes.
Yeah, just when we were in the Coliseum, it was like I almost felt guilty for being there.
Yeah.
And like you couldn't feel good about anything. It was honestly, it was so sad. Like it was the crowd was super quiet. I mean, they cheered some, but vibes were bad.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, a lot of the things that they normally do, they didn't do because of the circumstances. So it was like, it wasn't something to be celebrated. It was something that, like we just had to do. Like the show must go on. Like we have to, like continue to compete. And people were talking about like if the games were canceled, then that would be like the final nail in the coffin for CrossFit because
I'd heard that.
Spent all their money and like it was a lot. My takeaway from it though is that, like I can like fight again for next year. Like I'm alive. I still have the opportunity to qualify for next year. And although this past year was a pretty bad experience, I, like grew through it and figured out that I can do things that are hard and not ideal, and that's okay. But yeah, it was I would say like one of the worst experiences I've ever had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. And what was the cause? Cardiac arrest?
They will not say. Either it's still an open investigation or they paid off whoever found the findings to not say. So yeah, no one knows.
Someone knows.
Someone knows.
Someone knows, but nobody.
The large majority
knows.
of people don't know. Yeah.
Yikes.
So.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I couldn't imagine. I mean, this is a terrible example, but I remember in mid-school football, like watching one of my teammates break his elbow.
Yeah.
And that made me not want to play anymore.
Yeah.
And not necessarily like the
terrible.
fact like that could happen to me, but it was just such a gut punch.
Yeah.
Because he's like rolling on the ground screaming and stuff, which
it's like traumatic. Yeah. CrossFit, like legally had to provide us all with therapy.
Oh, no way. Yeah. Did you take advantage of that?
I currently am, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang, good for you.
Yeah.
That is nuts.
It was funny though, because like they contracted this third party like therapy company, like telehealth company.
Yeah.
And the people that you match with didn't know. Like I'm just another client to them. So like when I got on, I was like, what do you know? And she was like, what do you mean? And I'm like, oh, okay. So you don't know anything.
What do I know?
You don't know anything about the situation that I'm in. And then I had to explain it to her and she was like, oh my gosh. I was like, yeah. So here I am.
Gnarly.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
Well, you're back in Austin now. Yeah, you're here until March, you said?
So it's kind of up in the air. I have like a decision to make and whether I want to go individual this season or team. And I'll probably make that decision around December. So I'm here in Austin for the off season for sure. If I decide to go individual, I'll stay here. But if I decide to go team, then I'll move back to San Diego.
Yeah.
Probably in like March.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize that there's like seasons for it.
Yeah, so the way that CrossFit works, there's a couple of different stages. So the first stage is the Open, the CrossFit Open. Anyone can sign up for it. Like you could sign up for it if you wanted to.
Let's go.
And so what you do is like it's 3 weeks, 3 workouts. So they release a workout on Thursday. You have like I think until Monday to do it. And depending on where you place in the Open, the next stage they change it year to year, but I'm pretty sure last year it was like top 25% in the world. From the Open go to quarterfinals.
Okay.
And so quarterfinals is where you kind of have to decide if you want to go team or individual. You can do both. But so team quarterfinals was like a week before individual, I think. And it was, I believe, like 4 or 5 workouts in the span of like 4 or 5 days.
Okay.
So you and your team all have to be together to do those workouts because it's like at that point it's like a team workout. Like 2 people could be doing something while 2 people are resting and then like interchanging, or all 4 of us are doing something. And then individual is the week after that, and it's like 4 workouts over 4 or 5 days. And they've been changing it, but last year it was top 40 individuals from a region, which like we would be North America West, from I think Louisiana over is North America West.
Oh, wild.
Yeah. And so top 40 individuals and then top 40 teams make it to semifinals, which semifinals is in May. Ours was in Carson, California this past year.
Oh, nice.
And so then I believe there were 7 teams that made it out of North America West this past year to the games.
Yeah.
And then I think there were 9 females. The numbers change every year just based off of who they think is in what region.
Okay.
But yeah, so then you make it to the games after that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
When did you? Because you played volleyball in college, Eastern Carolina.
Yep.
Okay, see, I remember.
Yeah.
What was that your introduction to Olympic lifting? Was collegiate athletes or athletics?
No. So in high school, I knew I wanted to play volleyball in college. So I started going to like a strength and conditioning gym when I was
Okay.
like, I think a sophomore. And that gym just happened to be run by like one of the best like powerlifters ever. And
Oh,
he
nice.
also had Olympic weightlifting in his gym. So his name's Travis Mash, and I like attribute my love for like health and fitness and stuff like all to him because when I was younger, girls like didn't lift.
Yeah.
And if you did, it was like super weird.
Yeah.
And so
Because you're old. You're 28 now?
28.
Yeah.
Old.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yikes.
I'm just getting you back for earlier.
Well, Nick is 37 if you guys didn't know that. That's
Aging
pretty
like
old.
wine.
But so I started going to that gym and there were a decent amount of girls in like the athletic development because you know, like regardless of the sport, you need to lift, you need to run, you need to.
Where was this? What city?
Advance, North Carolina.
Oh.
So middle of nowhere, North Carolina.
Beautiful this time of year.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Never heard of it.
And so I started going there as a sophomore. He taught us all how to Olympic lift in these like strength and conditioning classes, which I thought was so cool because once you get to college, they just assume that you know a lot.
Yeah.
And some of the girls that I was with playing volleyball knew nothing.
Yeah.
And that obviously it's like that's not a make or break for you, but your life is a lot easier if you know how to do that.
You're a couple of steps ahead. Pause real quick. Knowing what you know now about Olympic lifting, going back to that coach, like what you learned in high school, you're like, oh, this was really good Olympic lifting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's awesome. Because
100%.
Like, I think about my high school football coach, and he would have us doing cleans.
That's rough. No, not like that.
I look back at it now, and I'm like, man, I love that guy, Coach Alcorn. He was great, and he never really, he never really busted my chops. Because I didn't play football my senior year, and in the weights class, he would never really give me a hard time about lifting, just because he knew I was still like, on the baseball team.
Yeah.
So I felt like he was easier on me than some of the other baseball players for some reason. But anyway, he would teach us cleans and other lifts, and I look back at him now, and I'm like, great guy, but I'm so glad I didn't hurt myself.
Yeah. No, not like that at all. So Travis was like himself was a like world famous powerlifter and like held world records at some points. And then I think he also had some sort of background in Olympic lifting as well. So his gym was athletic development, so a lot of high school kids. There was a CrossFit side, and then there was an Olympic lifting like team that he had. And so when he first taught us the Olympic lifts, I think we only did them with PVC pipes for like a couple months. So making sure that we had, like the mobility and stability required for the positions that you need to hit was step one. And then making sure that you understood the movement pattern and, like what to do when, and that you were familiar with how to move your body around the barbell and how to move the barbell around your body. And then we started like adding weight. And even before the Olympic lifts, like he taught us, squat, bench, deadlift the right way. And so it was really cool to grow up like that because like you're saying, my high school weightlifting teacher, because I took weightlifting and not dance like every other girl. I was like the only girl in weightlifting with all of the football boys. He just like didn't have enough resources to know that wasn't
he was doing
the
best he could for what he knew.
And also it's like a bunch of high school boys that don't listen to you. Like you're not set up for success anyway.
No, especially for like proficient lifting.
And so that was much different. At MASH, it was called MASH Elite Performance. We did it the right way. We did it really slow. There were a lot of really good coaches there to help us. So that like built the foundation of like my strength today. And I would say Olympic weightlifting or like lifting in general in the CrossFit space is my best like attribute. And so he definitely built that strength base, and like starting that young was such a game changer because like there's no shortcut to build strength. Like you just need time and good reps over a long period of time. And so that's why I think like when any like heavier weight comes up in CrossFit, it's like a break for me. Like it's like I can breathe. Like, okay, I know that I'll do well in that event. So it's honestly like it's saved me a ton because, for instance, I qualified for a competition in Dubai in December.
Oh, wow.
There were 3 workouts, 4 scores. One of the scores was 5 rep max shoulder to overhead. So you jerk however you want it.
Yeah.
I got second in that. So that was, I got a
Wow.
ton of points for that. But then one of the other scores was like really lightweight thrusters and burpees. And I got like almost last on that. So they like canceled each other out.
Yeah.
So my other 2 scores were like somewhere in the middle so that I qualified. But if I wasn't such a good weightlifter, then I probably wouldn't have a shot. Because I definitely don't move very fast.
So you prefer intensity over volume?
Yeah, for sure. Any type of CrossFit workout that has a barbell, it's like people are always like, "Oh, you're gonna do great at that." I'm like, not when the weight is like 125 pounds. Like
that's a lot for some people.
Well,
I'm just kidding. I mean, yes, it is.
But yeah, like the thruster workout that I was talking about was 45 thrusters at 65 pounds.
Yeah.
45 burpees. It's like the thruster was a non-factor for any of the smaller girls because it's so light that they can continue to move it. Yeah. But that doesn't help me because like I'm 5'9", like I have a really long range of motion. I
swear you're like 6'2".
Yeah, 6'3" actually. No, I have a really long range of motion, so my rep speed inherently is already slower.
Yeah, you have a pretty short torso.
Yeah, so unfortunately for me, I have long femurs and a short torso, which is terrible for weightlifting.
I'm long torso, short femur, so I'm like deadlifting, squatting. I'm like, sign me up.
You should be, the strongest guy in the room always. Yeah. But so fortunately for me, I picked weightlifting, which was like one of the only sports that my height and like my dimensions like don't work for.
Right. Yeah.
So it is what it is.
Couldn't have been American Ninja Warrior either. You're a little too big for that.
Nope. I'm too bottom heavy for that.
Yeah. So, did I ever tell you about the that military study I was part of for deadlifting?
No.
So it was put on by Dr. Frankel at the time. I think he was with TRX, and this was done at the University of New Mexico.
Okay.
And I was actively fighting. So in the study, they labeled me as an MMA fighter.
Okay.
My former boss, Lawrence Herrera, he's a competitive mountain cyclist.
Yeah.
Mountain biker.
That's cool.
So he was considered an endurance athlete in the study. We both did it. And like day one, you go in there and you run and you do a true VO2 max test. You're hooked up to all the machines and everything. And, it's so funny because if you know, it's like anything. Like if you know movies, you know like lines and stuff that are coming up. So like when the coaches that are executing performing the test, they're like cheering you on, and that's like a psychological thing that they're doing for the test.
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, you're doing great, good job, good work," and it almost seems like it's scripted.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, all right, that's fine, whatever. But it's like the RPE, rating of perceived exertion, that is like a scale of like 1 to 20 when they do VO2 max. And so I'm running and I'm pointing to whatever number I'm at like every minute or so, and the incline's steadily increasing. It's brutal. Have you done a VO2 max test before? Yeah, because you're well educated. We'll get into that. And so after that, we get it down. I want to say mine was like 48.8 or something like that, which I have no idea if that's good still. But after that, they let you fully recover, and then you work your way up to a 1 rep max on deadlift. That's the first day of the test on trap bar. And then day 2, I don't remember the second and third day specifically, but day 2, you start at like a certain percentage, and I think you increase and you do sets of 10 until you can't anymore.
Okay.
And all the while you're still hooked up to a oxygen mask. They're drawing blood from my earlobe like every second or third set. And then the third day was the hardest workout I've ever done in my life. Okay?
Oh yeah.
But to be fair, I was doing it wrong, but like not really. So I think we're set up at maybe 40% of your 1 rep max on deadlift.
Okay.
You're still hooked up to everything. They're still doing the blood on the earlobe, but you're also hooked up to a tendo unit where they track velocity.
Yeah.
Was that TENS unit? Tendo?
Tendo, I think.
Tendo, because TENS is the electrical stem. Yeah. So tendo unit. And so for whatever reason, I thought that specific thing was to make sure that I was keeping the velocity of the bar up on every rep.
Okay.
And so I'm just like ripping every rep, just trying to like get up as fast as I can. And we're trying to do 20 sets of 10 reps at like, I think it was like maybe 40 or 50% of your 1 rep max.
That's a lot.
With I think only a minute of recovery time in between.
Wow.
Yeah, it was brutal.
Yeah.
And especially because again, I'm trying to keep the velocity up. So my heart rate is like through the roof. And finally I get through set 13. And I'm like, get this mask off me, I'm gonna puke. Like I was like, I don't want to throw up in your mask. I didn't puke. But they're like, all right, cool, good job. Like that was good for today, blah, blah. And I was like, man, I thought they'd be a little more excited.
Yeah.
And then I talked to my boss later on. He does his third day, and he's like, yeah, I got all 20 sets. Well, I was like, what the hell? I was like, how'd you get 20 sets, dude? I was dying. He's like, oh, I was just nice and controlled, like kept my breathing under control. I was like, man, I thought the whole point was to like track the velocity.
Yeah.
And he's like, no. And even I ended up, because he was good friends with the guy conducting the study. I think they were, he might have, like, the guy conducting the study might have been a student of his in grad school, something along those lines. Like, they knew each other from grad school reasons.
Yeah.
But they're like, no, like that wasn't the point of the third day. We were just, that was like a side note of like tracking velocity. So now, if I'm not mistaken, now deadlifts are part of the military entry exam.
Really?
Because it was proven that you can get the same cardiovascular response from lightweight training with high volume as you can from running.
That's super cool.
Yeah, because as you maybe know, I'm sure you know, especially with your boyfriend, running in the military is awful. Like their knees, ankles, hips are so messed up, and I attribute a lot of that to probably the footwear, but also just the amount that they're doing and like the rucking.
Sheer volume and added weight for sure.
So like the fact that now they can supplement that with some weight training, I'm like, hopefully that makes a difference. That'd be pretty cool.
That is super cool. I did something with CrossFit with the Army here in Austin. I guess it was about a year ago this time.
Oh, no way.
They were introducing basically some of the CrossFit specific like methods to the Army and like to their PT tests and stuff. I don't know if they actually like got anything implemented, but we did. It was me and like a handful of guys from like CrossFit HQ and then some of the other like coaches in the area. We all met at Austin FC, and there were basically, it was the Army people that mostly like work behind desks to be like the guinea pigs to kind of see like where it would go.
To have like a more base level of fitness.
Yeah, and so we got there and we were helping them with what they already do like in their tests, because like one of the things I remember is like they have to throw like a med ball for like max distance, and so.
How heavy is a med ball?
I don't remember.
Interesting.
It wasn't that heavy.
I'm wondering, how is that relevant to anything you would do in the military?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Jury's out on that.
Is it the weight of a grenade? Like,
you know what I'm saying? I don't know. I think it was like explosive force that you could put behind something.
Okay.
And there is some skill to it.
For sure.
Like it's the timing of like when you release and stuff like that.
Yeah, like we did a med ball throw. Sorry to cut you off. As part of like the coaching standards at one point for the on-it coaches.
I think it's a good test. Like
but like me being one of the smaller male coaches at on-it, like and also granted I have a better rotational base from being a baseball player. But I think I threw it further than any of the male coaches, maybe other than Brian Butts or maybe Juan. Like maybe one or two of those guys was around or a little bit further than
just
me.
Like sheer strength.
Exactly, brute force. But I like, again, like you said, skill and
being able to rotate and like So we helped them with that. I think their like initiative was to train the people who are training the people in the Army through CrossFit like methodology. I'm not sure if that ever took off, but it was a cool experience to see, and I think they really enjoyed it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, there could be. The one thing that I did not like seeing was when I'd see a lot of fighters training CrossFit.
Yeah, like it has its applications.
There's some
but
crossover
I feel like,
for sure.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't be ideal in a fighting scenario.
Well, I just in my opinion, I'm not going to claim to be an expert on anything, but like fighters kill themselves enough in their gym, that
like
they don't need to kill themselves in the weight room. They need something that's going to benefit them like posturally, structurally, make sure they can deliver and absorb force at a good rate.
That makes sense.
But they don't need to be throwing up, a bunch of kilos overhead.
Anything too crazy. I think people who, I don't know, there's some sports where I'm like, oh, like CrossFit could help that, but I also think people who are just trying to get the hardest workout that they possibly can in, and CrossFit is obviously a pretty easy way to do that. Gives it like sort of a bad rap because that doesn't always like breed good results.
No, it doesn't. What did you get your degree in?
I got my undergrad degree in kinesiology, and then I got my graduate degree in biomechanics and motor control.
Wow. And where were you at before you came to On-It?
I was in Santa Barbara, California. So basically, I was in grad school during COVID.
What a time.
Rough times. And so when I finished,
California?
No, I was in North Carolina, so East Carolina University. I went there for undergrad and graduate degree.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And so Pirates.
Yeah,
Go Pirates.
Go Pirates. Sorry.
Yeah. So I was there for 6 years. And so I finished my graduate degree, well, more or less, like graduated, but I still had to defend my thesis and stuff and like kind of finish everything, just because COVID set us back. So my thesis, I had to conduct the study like in person because it was a weightlifting study. So not only did I have to go into a gym when most gyms were closed, but the university had to, like, there were so many hoops that I had to jump through to even go to the gym, like, under East Carolina University. And so instead of having basically my whole senior year to do this, I had, like, 3 months to do what was going to take me, like, basically a year.
Yikes.
Yeah, it was bad. So I had to wait a really long time until there was, like, a weird, I think, 2 weeks span of time where the FDA or whoever was making those decisions allowed gyms.
We still don't know.
To open.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Allowed gyms to open back up under, like, the loophole of if your doctor, like, prescribed that you need exercise, then you can go. Yeah, it was something crazy.
That was in Carolina. That was, like, the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it was different everywhere. I'm pretty sure. And so there was, like, the span of 2 weeks where it was lifted and you could go if you, like, proved you needed it, whatever. So that opened the door for me to then go to the university and say, this gym is open under these precautions.
Yeah.
I can conduct my study. And so I conducted my study. And basically it was Isabel. So Isabel is a benchmark CrossFit workout, and it's 30 snatches for time. And I kind of
at a certain percentage.
So I tweaked it.
Okay.
Isabel is prescribed to be 95 pounds for women, 135 pounds for men.
Snatches?
Yeah, okay. Snatches. And so I tweaked it, though. I kind of said I had these people who, you know, like, I got a broad range. So, like, people who were really good at CrossFit, people who were, you know, like, doing CrossFit more for just fitness, and then people who were weightlifters, like athletes that had done the snatch movement before. The only qualification that I put in is that you had to be comfortable with the snatch movement and had to have been doing it for at least, like, 6 months to a year, so that it was, like, valid, you know?
Yeah.
And so
you weren't instructing it for the first time.
Right. And so I basically did 60% of each participant's 1 rep max power snatch. So that's the weight that they used, up to the prescribed weight. So, like, if you're if you're
that's
over
smart.
that weight, then you would just use the prescribed weight, which, like, a lot of the, like, elite level CrossFitters that I used there were, but I wanted the test to be, like, the actual benchmark workout. So so I believe it ended up being 17 people do this test. I had to throw out a couple due to technical difficulties. And so conducted the research, and then after that, you cast, like, a really broad net when you do research, just because I had some things that I was going to look for, but I didn't want, like, research or bias and only measure for those things. So I measured for, like, a ton of different things. I probably could pull up the data, like, right now and find a new trend that I didn't see, like, however many years ago. But so cast, like, a really broad net. And then the gyms got shut down again. So even if I needed to do more research, I couldn't, because it was, like, off limits at that point.
Good Lord.
Yeah. And so then analyzed the data very quickly, since I didn't have a ton of time. And then graduated from grad school, moved to Santa Barbara for an internship with a company called P3, which stands for Peak Performance Project.
Okay. And
they're out of Santa Barbara. The reason why I took that internship with them is because they use biomechanics to develop, like, elite level athletes. Their niche was pre-draft NBA guys.
Oh,
so
nice.
A local, like, basketball agency had signed a deal with them where, like, if you sign with this agency, then you go to P3 in the off season,
nice.
or before the draft. And so I got to be there, like, prime time, like, right before the NBA draft in the summer, which is so cool.
That's cool.
We had probably, like, 15 guys there that all got drafted that next NBA draft.
No way.
Yeah, like, 7 of them were in, like, the 7-footer club, so they were 7 feet or taller.
Yeah.
Which was insane. And so that was really cool to see.
I don't think I've ever met anybody that's 7 feet tall.
I am tall. Like, I'm a pretty big person.
You're taller than me.
In general. And, like, but, like, looking up at someone that's, like, more than a foot taller than you when you're usually, like, the tall person.
Yeah.
It was, like, very odd. They would come in and, like, pat my head. Like, hey, guys.
You know who, what's his name? Thor Bjornsson, right? The world's strongest man?
Yeah.
The guy that played the mountain?
Yeah.
That's the tallest guy I've ever met. So however tall he is, I think he's like 6'10".
Yeah, pretty tall. But Yeah, these
Not
guys.
Not a 7-footer.
These guys, yeah, we called them the 7-footers because we would have to change like almost everything that they did because they can't lift weights off the ground like that. Why would they do that? That's insane.
Why would they do that? Yeah.
So yeah, we kind of you had to get creative with how you trained them, just because it's just you don't really have like a playbook for that. Like,
no,
so
that's
big.
Not the common the status quo.
So that's what brought me to Santa Barbara. I was there the whole summer, learned a ton, was a really cool experience. P3 is definitely one of like the pioneers in using biomechanics and like sports science to develop performance, and it was really cool to see the way that they like integrated it all and to learn from them. It was awesome. And then I ended up taking a job from another very similar company called Variant. Basically, they did everything that P3 did except for your everyday person. So
and like, where were they at?
Also Santa Barbara.
Okay.
So yeah, just down the street. So I worked for Variant as a biomechanics specialist. So basically, Variant's business plan or business model was the most typical way you would get introduced to it was you had some sort of traumatic injury. You either got surgery or physical therapy or whatever was prescribed to you. And then after, like your 4 weeks in physical therapy, usually they're like, all right, like get out of here, like you're done. And these people are still like miles away from like being healthy again.
Yeah, right.
So Variant kind of bridged the gap in between outpatient physical therapy and like getting back to like what you love to do. So people would come in, fresh out of surgery or rehab or whatever it was. And my job was to test them using technology. So basically what I would do is like, we had like a lot of like ACL tears. That was very typical. So if you had that, obviously, depending on what stage you are in rehab, I would test your strength in your affected leg. So like the one that you tore your ACL in. And we would set a baseline. And then from what like information that I gathered, I would go then back to the trainers and say like, this person presents as this. They have a 30% strength deficit on their affected side, blah, 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 blah. And so then the trainers would take that information and build them a training program, and then we would retest again in a month and see like, okay, are we making progress? Are we closing the gap or are we not? If we are, awesome, let's continue to do that. If we're not, and we need to just change something. And so it was really cool because it was more than just fitness. And like, I know a lot of people say that like it was more than what it was, but it really was because like people would come in, like in a bad spot, like you get injured, can't do anything, especially if you're used to being active and then all of a sudden you can't be. Right. That's a tough spot to be in. And so to be able to, like help those people get one step closer to what they want to be doing again. Because like we had a lot of high school kids that played sports and like after getting like injured like traumatically in high school, like I can only imagine that. I, knock on wood, haven't had like a pretty traumatic injury my whole sports life, and that's been great for me. But I know. But when that happens, is like you feel like your whole world is falling apart.
Oh, for sure. Especially if you're like a high school kid on the brink of like going to college, and like say it's your
planning your life out.
Junior year, which is probably arguably like maybe your most important year of sports in high school, because that's when most scholarships and stuff are given out.
Yeah,
that'd be awful. I couldn't imagine. Or like I always thought about like COVID. I'm like, man, when COVID hit that year, those poor kids from that. Like, cause what if that was like you were a make or break, like you really needed that year, you were a borderline before. Yeah. Maybe afterwards they didn't even want to look at you.
I heard a lot of people like reclassed, like took the same year of school over again, which would have been miserable. But
you see a lot of it. There's still a guy, I want to say he's like a tight end at one of the Florida schools that's like 28 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he's like in his 9th year.
That's your whole life.
I know. He's a grown ass man out there. He's like played.
I guess you can. Yeah.
I guess, he's found every loophole like in the NCAA like
you
COVID.
can do it in high school and you can do it in college, because I remember in high school I had the opportunity to reclass and go to a different school for softball, and if I wanted to get
oh, no way.
To get recruited for like a bigger like softball school, and I told my mom, I was like, I'm not redoing a year of high school, like that's not for me. So I did not do it.
So in high school you did softball and volleyball.
Yeah. Nice. Softball. I also played basketball. I played all of the sports
Just a
until
jack of all trades.
Yeah, I guess so, huh?
Yeah, super athlete.
Until probably my senior year, I think I only played volleyball. Decided it was too much at that point.
Yeah,
but I also was like weightlifting on the side as well. So.
And how many years did you play in college?
I only played my first year. Yeah.
And then just strict weightlifting after that?
Yeah, so basically walked onto the team, decided it wasn't for me. I didn't really like the college athletics scene. It was a lot of...
I hear that more from, and there's a reason for it, but I hear that more from females than I do from males.
Yeah, it just, I didn't like it that much. I mean, I knew I wanted to go to grad school, and my grades were not good because I was like spread super thin because, you know, you go to practice, you also go to weightlifting.
Oh, it's so tough being a collegiate
athlete. Yeah, it was a lot, and I was just walk-on, so it's not like I had a scholarship to worry about.
Yeah, you weren't getting any favors.
Right, so... and then it just was like, it was a lot of partying, which I've never been a partier, like never really been a drinker. I'm much better at eating. So like I didn't want to drink that much. And so I didn't really like fit into the whole like college athletics scene. And I knew that, you know, like I wanted to go to grad school and that there were other things that I really enjoyed doing outside of that. So yeah, I didn't go back after my freshman year. I mean, I went back to the same school, but I didn't play volleyball. And then I started picking up weightlifting again. And that was super fun, but there weren't a lot of people weightlifting at my school. So like I think I did weightlifting through ECU 1 year because there's university nationals. So basically like if you qualify, you go through your university to like a national weightlifting competition. I did that 1 year. And then after that, I saw that there were a lot of kids, like college kids my age doing CrossFit. And like the gym that I had weightlifted in also was a CrossFit gym. Yeah. And so I one day saw that there was mostly weightlifting in the workout. And I was like, I'll hop in. And then I met friends and then started doing CrossFit for fun.
You made friends.
Yeah, I know. First time for everything, right?
So happy for you.
Yeah, so then I started doing CrossFit, and it was funny because there was a group of college kids that did it, and we did it for mostly fun. I mean, there's some of us that were really, really good. Yeah. And then one of my best friends to this day, his name's Antonio, he started doing like a competitor program. So like a lot harder, more volume, more workouts, like more time consuming. So that he could compete. Like he wanted to do, you know, some local competitions, and he was like, hey, do you want to do this program with me? And I like took one look at it and was like, absolutely not. That
absolutely not.
Terrible. Like I would do anything other than that.
Yeah.
And so I watched him for like 2 weeks because he had to do it by himself because no one was doing it. I watched him for like 2 weeks, like from the side, like, and he was getting his butt kicked because like we weren't used to that. And then I was like, dang, like I can't let my man get his butt kicked. Like I gotta go over there.
You're a
so
real
then
one.
I started, always. So then I started doing it with him, and I got my butt kicked for, Lord, almost probably a year, like of just like getting my butt kicked. We had no business doing the program that we were doing, or at least I had no business doing it because it was really gymnastics heavy, and I was not
really?
good at
Okay,
gymnastics.
Well, yeah, that is an aspect of the games.
And so I got my butt kicked for a really, really, really long time. And then I don't remember what happened, but there was like a shift where I like finally figured it out. Like I had a lot more like strict gymnastics strength because I had been working on the side. But all of a sudden I would be beating him in workouts, probably like, not 50-50, probably like 60-40. And then one day I was like
60-40, you beating him?
No, 64, like him beating me 60, me beating him 40. But one day I was like, wait, have I made it? Like, is this what it feels like to win sometimes? So yeah, it ended up being really fun. We did a lot of local competitions together. And then I kind of decided that I wanted to take it to the next level when I moved to Santa Barbara, and started really focusing on it, like got a individual coach that programmed for me, and then joined a team and kind of took off from there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you ever, before you started doing CrossFit competitions, did you ever do any strict like Olympic lifting competitions?
Yeah. In high school I did.
In high school?
I competed, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I started going to that gym as a sophomore. Probably started lifting like doing an Olympic lifting program probably like 6 months after that. So like still sophomore year. And so I did a couple of junior national competitions, which is can't remember how old you have to be a junior. I think it's 18 or under. So I did a couple of those, which was really cool. You get to like travel around. Like I think I got bronze 1 year. So that was like my highest placement. And then so did a lot of local weightlifting competitions, did a few national level ones, and then went and played volleyball and kind of put it on hold and then picked it back up after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but my first certification is USAW level 1.
Oh yeah. No way.
First cert I ever did. It was awesome. I loved it.
When was that? Like how long ago?
Gosh, that had to have been 2014, 15.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Through a guy named Joaquin Chavez. He was the Olympic strength and conditioning coach, or the strength and conditioning coach for the Olympic sports at the University of New Mexico.
Oh, cool.
So all the sports are like basketball, whatever, like he was the head guy. But obviously like football and a couple other programs had their own guy.
Yeah.
But he ran most of the teams. And my ex actually was an intern under him, so that's how I kind of got piqued my interest into doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, first cert was for Olympic lifting, and I honestly don't know if I've done a strict barbell snatch since.
Fair enough. I mean, if you're not gonna compete in CrossFit or weightlifting, there's no.
And that's I think it's a great movement, but I think like athletically speaking, you can get the same benefits from doing a clean, which for most athletes is a safer movement.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. There are things in CrossFit that I would never have anyone else do unless you wanted to do CrossFit.
That's how I feel about like Zercher squats. Like, I see some people doing them around on it, and they're still a great movement overall. Like you're moving weight, you're strength training. I love it. But for me, when I think about like general population people, I'm like, Zercher squats are very applicable for like MMA or like jiu-jitsu guys. But like as far as like everyday lifters, I'm like, I wonder why you're doing a Zercher squat.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, as long as they're lifting, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. I think too many trainers these days like try to reinvent the wheel and like change just to change.
Yeah.
And that is like one of my biggest pet peeves. And I get it. Like you need to be bought into your own program, and if you're bored, that's an issue. But I cannot stand when people change a program just to change it. It's like if it's working, then do it. Like you need to squat, you need to deadlift, you need to press. Like those are like your top 3 things that you absolutely have to do. And like I get that you want variation in that, but the trainers that are like, you know, like adding all these movements together to get this like crazy compound movement that you would never do in real life. It's just like that's like one of my biggest pet peeves ever.
Yeah. I can't stand that, and I mean I always tell people this, that there's a reason that vanilla ice cream is still very popular.
Yeah,
that's
right?
that's how I always tell people. I was like strength training. I was telling Gino, one of the coaches that on it the other day, and I was talking about my warm up, but it also applies to strength training. Like it should be very vanilla ice cream, and then every now and then you throw in your chocolate chips and your sprinkles and stuff like that. But like your base needs to be there.
I agree.
Yeah,
but and Carlisle from On It will say like entertainment.
Yeah.
And I get it, because it's like, again, like if you're not bought in and if you're bored and you don't want to do it, then you're not gonna do anything, and that's an issue. But I just like when I was working at Variant and I would have to program for people, we changed their program every 5 weeks.
Yeah.
But sometimes I would be like, I really don't want to change it. Like it's doing wonders for you. You're, you know, like closing all the gaps that we talked about. But if I change it, I feel like then you're not going to get like as much adaptation. Like you're really responding well. Like, so that's hard for me as like knowing what I know, I guess, like scientifically. And then I think sometimes that bites me in the butt, when I am like a coach and a trainer, because it's like in my head, like this makes sense, like you should just do it. But people don't work like that.
I'm right there with you, because I tend to program for either Gen Pop or my athletes in the same way of like 4 to 5 week programs, and even then it's just kind of not necessarily like rinse and repeat, but you're doing the same patterns just performed differently for the next 4 or 5 week phase. But when I was training David Freeze, we were doing a program that he was getting a lot of benefit from, not only for an old injury that he was rehabbing, but like golf and just movement in general. And so it was one of those things where I'm like, in the back of my mind, and he's a good friend of mine and our communication's great, he's a very good friend of mine. But I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, should I text him and see if he's getting bored with this?
Yeah.
Because like I was just changing so little in the program. But again, he was getting like good feedback from, again, his rehab and all that stuff. So I was like, I was like, in my mind, I know like the plan is to change the program a little bit, but I was like, I don't really think we need to right now. So in the back of my mind, I was like, I wonder if I should just text him and see if he's getting bored with this. But he loved it. He was like, that was a good workout.
People who are like athlete minded understand that.
Yeah.
And people who have done sports like in the past, like understand that, because that's, you know, like
that's
practice, yeah, doesn't really necessarily change a ton day to day. Like you're working on a specific thing and you're like getting as many like quality reps of that as possible.
Right. Yeah, you don't take batting practice once at the beginning of the year and
yeah,
then not the rest of the year.
It. Or like make someone bat from the left because they're tired
of that. Yeah, you're tired from hitting from the right side, try from the left.
Try it again.
Yeah. It's hard, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I agree. But it is wild. It's wild to see, like, there's so much good on social media, but man, there's so much crap out there too. And not just like
it's so
obviously bad stuff, but like bad stuff when it comes to people trying to send a good message.
Yeah.
Like training or nutrition.
I hate scrolling and see, like, I don't really like Instagram. Like if I didn't, you know, like need it for sponsorships and like other things that I do, I probably wouldn't look at it a ton.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much misinformation. Like I'll scroll and someone will be promoting like a diet that was in Vogue magazine 20 years ago where you eat like one hard-boiled egg and a cup of black coffee. That's your breakfast. And I'm like, how do people read this and think, oh, I want to like put that out there so more people see it? I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's like half of what Instagram is.
Yeah.
So
what's wild to me is like, are you familiar with blood flow restriction training, BFR? Mm-hmm. Like there's, I forget like I want to say it's maybe Japanese, but there's a term for it. It's been around for hundreds of years. And I started getting into, do you know who Lane Norton is? It's so funny. I just talked a bunch about him to Brad on the last episode, so I don't want to but he's a great online follow. He calls out a bunch of BS and like he'll tag people in it, and so like a lot of people block him. But he's a doctor, but like a world champion natural bodybuilder and power lifter, and like I use his macro tracking app.
Oh, cool.
But when I first started like my fitness journey, I did a PH3 program, Power Hypertrophy Big 3. Mm-hmm. And it was a 90-day program that he wrote out, and a lot of it was BFR training, but he goes into detail about like where it comes from, the studies done on it, and like people doing like ultrasounds on tissue while they're doing BFR. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, the proper ways to do it and where to like tie off at. Yeah. And I see some people around the gym, like, I'm like, I know you just saw that on Instagram, and you're just like, they're probably just doing it for vascularity. Yeah. Like they're just, because like you shouldn't do heavy weights under BFR.
That's the whole point, right?
Yeah. So I see some people that are like curling with BFR, and that's honestly one of the main things I liked it for, was for curling, because I'm not big on curls as a overhead athlete. Like I didn't see the need to have a very bulbous upper body.
Yeah.
But I'll see people curling doing BFR and with like their tourniquets on, and I'm like, dude, why do you have like 50-pound dumbbells? I'm like, no, put that down. Like it's supposed to be like high volume.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. So again, it's one of those things where like people will find like old stuff that worked a long time ago.
Yeah.
And kind of like try to bring it back now, but like just totally butcher the translation.
Yeah. Well, especially with BFR, that there is like some safety concern when you are cutting off blood flow and you're not doing it right. That's alarming.
Yeah, I'm curious to see, and maybe I should talk to Jen Elam over at Onnit, the PT there, because she's brilliant. Have you ever worked with Jen? Have you ever done anything with her?
I have not, but I've met her.
Oh, she's so smart. I love having her in the building. She's great. But I know there's like recovery benefit to BFR.
Yeah, so we at Variant, we use BFR a ton on our patients that couldn't bear weight yet, but wanted to strengthen the muscles. So it's like, it's a great like rehab tool. Because people, you know, who have just had knee surgery can't necessarily bear weight, but we don't want their muscles to atrophy. And so like, throw a BFR cuff, throw a cable, you know, like on your ankle, like at like the lightest resistance, and you can still move. It's actually like really nice. We did that a lot. I also, as an athlete, have used it before for, you know, like hypertrophy and things like that. I have a pair of like leg cuffs that I got. And doing, you know, like the burnout sets with those like as fast as possible.
They're brutal.
That's like a different level of pain. Like it's just different.
Yeah, I couldn't, when I was doing the Lane Norton program, a lot of it was like preacher curls with like the cuffs on, and I was like, I can't wait to take these off. Yeah,
that's
it was
all you think about as soon as they inflate. It's like, okay, when do I get to take them off?
Yeah, you feel like you're gonna pop.
Yeah.
It's so brutal. And what's weird is the only other time I felt a sensation like that was after my first fight. because I had such an adrenaline dump. Like every strike I threw in that fight was like as hard as I could. Typical like first fight. Most amateurs do that. And so I exhausted myself. But I remember at the end of it, I'm like, cut these fucking gloves off me. I was like, my hands are like my arms are throbbing. Yeah. And that was the only other time I kind of got that like BFR feeling. I was like, oh, I gotta get it off.
Yeah, where like it's like it's worse after the fact. Yeah.
There's like a moment where you just want to like roll around. And you're like, ah.
Yeah, well, and like nothing is comfortable, and like it gets like worse and worse and worse. Like probably like the next 10 minutes afterwards.
I feel like that's every CrossFit workout.
It is a lot of them.
I see what you post, and you just like have sweat angels on the ground where you look like you died.
Every single day after doing like a max effort workout, I'm like in my head, I'm like, what can I do to go home right now? Like, what do I have to say? What do I have to do?
Gotta check on my dog.
Yeah, I was like, I just want to go home.
I'm sick.
Yeah, no, there's been, I mean, they're not all like that, but some, especially like doing qualifiers and stuff, like I've been doing qualifiers for the past like, let's say, I don't know, like 3-ish weeks. I've had like a 2-week break since then, but there was a time where I was doing the TFX qualifiers, which is a competition here in Austin in the end of January. And then I was also doing Dubai Fitness Championship qualifiers at the same time. And when you're doing qualifiers, it literally, like, every rep counts. Everything that you do counts. And so the last day of the Dubai Fitness Championship, I had to redo 2 of them. And it was miserable.
Oh, no.
I got, like, an incredible score on the first one I redid. And then on the second one, I already felt like trash. Like it was one of those where I like rolled around on the floor for like 15 minutes afterwards because it just kept getting worse. And then the second one, I redid it and only got 1 rep better and I was ill. Like I think I was like, this is what having the flu feels like. I could not breathe.
Is this
like,
rhabdo?
Yeah, literally. I was like, and I'm thinking, I'm like rolling around on the floor and I'm like, why do I do this? Why? But yeah, those workouts where you're like going 110% because it like matters for something are so different than, you know, just like going through just the motions more or less. But yeah, that's such an uncomfortable feeling because like you're done. Like you're not doing anything, but it's getting worse. Which is scary.
The very first time I did a VO2 max was on a watt bike.
And the watt bike is nasty.
Dude, it was hell. Yeah. And it was the same thing. I could not get comfortable. I'm trying to elevate my feet on a wall. I'm rolling around. I'm in the fetal position. And all the while, like my coworkers, because it was at Performance Ranch in Albuquerque. And that was the whole thing. It was like our coaches meeting was my VO2 max test to like do the I know. So I'm like lying. I'm not a particularly sweaty person, and I'm just like doused, just dripping. My thighs feel like they're gonna pop. Like I don't know which way my intestines are gonna expel. But I'm like, get me the fuck out of here. I'm like, this is so brutal.
Home.
I need to go home. So, but like, someone take me home.
It's like literally like call out of work for that.
And all the while, like, so I'm just lying on the ground and like all my coworkers are like going over this stuff, and I'm like, I'll be there in a second.
I can't talk. Don't look at me.
It was rough. But man, the watt bike is brutal.
I've done the ramp test on that one too. It's pretty bad.
The ramp test is real bad.
Yeah.
That was one of our big tools because we in Albuquerque trained like a good amount of fighters. Like that was kind of what we were like known for just because of who they were. But in all honesty, we trained more like hunters, mountain bikers, endurance type athletes that would do that kind of stuff. Mile high altitude. I remember there was a different gym I worked at in Albuquerque when I was much younger. And we used to get a bunch of these like tiny little Japanese ladies that would get a membership at our gym only to use the locker because our gym was literally at the base of the mountain. So they'd use a locker and then just go run all through the trails.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so we got to like see some cool stuff like that. And then being at Performance Ranch, like I got to start working with some more like endurance type athletes. It really, I never really thought to train people for hunting. Until I got there and I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense. They should be training to hunt.
For sure. I've never been hunting or like anything like that, but I've like heard people's stories of like how far you have to walk because there's a certain point where you can't drive, and then if you kill something, you have
to pack out the meat. Bring
it back.
Right. And then I mean, sometimes like if you're in the right situation or you know a little bougier, you might have a 4-wheeler or an ATV. But a lot of times, like we trained this guy. He had owned a coffee shop in Albuquerque or some sort of coffee business and sold it off. And was just like living his best life at whatever age he was, you know, probably in his 60s. And he used to take these hunting trips where he'd get dropped off like above the Arctic Circle in Canada by a helicopter. And they're like, all right, like we'll be back in a couple days, like meet us here.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and he'd go like bighorn hunting. And he'd just do like wild hunt trips like that. I don't think you ever, I mean, I don't know if you ever did any like the kind of shit you don't like to see of like hunting rhinos and stuff like that. But like he did like cool stuff like that, like getting dropped off in the wilderness and doing trips. So he would train for that. I remember he'd bring a big ass pack and he'd jump on the Versa climber and go at it, or jump on the air runner and go at it.
I would not want to get dropped off if I wasn't prepared for like anything.
Oh yeah, and he would go hard. But he brought back some of that bighorn, and I really like game meat, like from everything I've had. That was disgusting.
Really?
It was not good. But he also did say it was an older ram.
Oh.
So maybe that had something to do with it. I'm not sure. But like elk or axis deer or like oryx, it's like oryx is a really pretty animal, has like long straight antlers. But it is a tasty animal for sure.
Really?
Yeah, super good,
I've
super
only
lean.
ever had like deer meat and bison.
Well, yeah, bison's great. I love bison. I'm not a big fan of deer meat, and it blew my mind moving out here because in New Mexico, I didn't realize how spoiled we were with elk. Because elk is, I mean, that's the big hunt that everyone puts in for. It's like a lottery that you have to put in for to draw tags on elk.
Okay.
But every year I knew people that would draw. It wasn't like an extremely odd chance lottery like the actual lottery.
Yeah.
But these guys would put in, and I would always know a handful of people every year that would draw, whether it was bow or rifle. A lot of people would put in for both and just hope to get one.
Yeah.
So I would get like a pretty fair amount of like elk meat, and I loved it. I'd get like ground elk or like back straps are the best.
Is it leaner than like beef and stuff?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you obviously can get like 93.7 beef or whatever, but like typical beef, yeah, it's leaner, a little denser in like protein.
Okay.
But tastes really good too. But then I came out here and everyone's talking about like whitetail, and I'm like, that's like a 80-pound animal. And then I was like, what about elk? And everyone's like, we don't have elk out here. I was like, oh no way.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I missed that. Yeah, because I've had some whitetail out here from like clients that on it will like go, because you can get it processed into like sausage or whatever. And in sausage, it's good, especially if you do like a breakfast sausage with it.
Yeah.
Or like a barbecue sausage, but like ground deer was not good.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't like it.
I've only had it a few times. I didn't mind it.
Yeah, I guess it all depends on how you cook it. I made it into tacos. Yeah.
Easy enough, right?
Easy enough. Yeah, hard to mess up tacos, but it wasn't bad. Like I ate it all, and I hate wasting food just because like the way I grew up, I'm like, oh man, it's like a shame to waste food.
Oh yeah, for sure, same.
Yeah.
Clean plate club always.
Yeah. All right, so you said you have 3 competitions coming up?
I do, yeah. I have
individual?
One. 2 of them are individual, 2 of them are team. So I'm going to Arizona November 8th through the 10th.
What part?
Good question.
Probably Phoenix?
Probably somewhere around that.
Yeah.
It's called the Desert City Classic. I'm excited for that one. That one will be fun. It's definitely on the come up. It has like, I think, bigger prize money this year. So there's a lot of other girls that I know that are going. There's also a swim event in that one in the pool. So
How are you at swimming?
CrossFit wise, I'm decent.
Okay.
Swimmer wise, probably not that good.
Yeah.
But I swam in like middle school in like the neighborhood swim team. So
it's adorable.
I know, right? I know a decent amount. Nothing crazy.
Back when you were my size.
Basically. But it's like CrossFit is it's never like a true swim. Like I've swum in a competition before and it was in the Bay in Miami, and so you did like a ton of D-ball squats, and then you swam, and then you came back and you ran. So
how far was the swim in like those type of events?
I think that one was 300 meters.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, no, it wasn't terrible.
Is it like 150 out and back, or?
Yeah, it was around buoys.
Okay, gotcha.
The only issue with that though was it wasn't supposed to be a mass start, because like you had things to do before you got in the water, but somehow literally like 12 of us got in the water at the same time. We're like all on top of each other, and like I kicked a girl in the face, someone almost kicked me in the face. It's just like a lot of
ruthless.
Yeah, I mean, she was too close.
I think I say the big concern was sharks.
No, well, I don't know. Are there sharks in the Bay?
I don't know. I've never been to the Bay. Florida? There's sharks in Florida. I think like bull sharks.
In the Bay? They said there weren't.
There are sharks that'll come like
oh my gosh.
I think bull sharks can come up freshwater.
Really?
To an extent. Yeah, there was one found in the Guadalupe River in Texas.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Hate that.
Yeah, I don't think they can like survive very long in freshwater, and don't come at me if I have wrong info here. But they can, because I remember when I lived in Myrtle Beach, we had a shark come in the inlet.
Hate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah. Have you been to Myrtle Beach?
I have. Yeah. I grew up in North Carolina, so we would go down
I lived there for a summer. Did I tell you that?
No.
Yeah, my
Doing what?
Don't worry about it. No, I'm just kidding. My my ex had an internship with the Cal Ripken baseball facility.
Oh, cool.
Baltimore legend, Cal Ripken. And I worked for Reebok.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and
That's
it was right
awesome.
around the time like CrossFit was really starting to come up, like the Rich Fronin days. Like that was like maybe the
Reebok had like a chokehold on CrossFit for a long time.
Yeah, and we'd have so many clowns come in and like try to ask us like CrossFit specific, because this was like maybe around the time of the Nano 2.0, like the CrossFit Nano shoe.
Everyone
was like,
had those.
Yeah, and so
it was
we'd
like
have
the only option.
Right, yeah, it was like the kind of like the first of its kind. It was like before the Metcon or anything like that. And I remember we had this guy come in, ask, and he knew the answers, but he was like trying to like, and I didn't know that he already knew the answers, but at that time you could only get the Nano at CrossFit sanctioned events or like certain like box gym things. But you couldn't get them in stores at that time.
Okay.
It was really early on in the Nano days.
Yeah.
And so he came in, he's like, hey, you guys got the CrossFit Nano? And I was like, oh, actually, you can only get those at certain events. He's like, or you can get it here. I was like, if you already know the answer, why are you asking me questions? I'm like, you freaking clown. But maybe that was what put a bad taste in my mouth about CrossFit. That, and then when I did my USAW, there were like 2 or 3 guys in there that were CrossFit coaches doing it, and they were so like annoying. And
there were a few very annoying CrossFit people in my USAW certification.
I was like, you guys are you guys aren't even paying attention.
Yeah, literally this lady would only raise her hand to like try to disprove what the guy just said, because he was talking about like weightlifting shoes and how if you're a weightlifter, you should have weightlifting shoes. And she was like, well, I don't want to rely on those. And he was like, do you think that like NFL football players think like, oh, I don't want to rely on my cleats. Like I want to be able to wear barefoot shoes or no shoes at all. And she was like, well, that's different. And he was like, how? How is it different?
How is it different?
It's a sport. It's a requirement of the sport. And she was insane. But that was like a good point, because I was like, yeah, like no baseball player would be like, I don't want to rely on my glove. I'm just going to catch the ball with my hand.
No.
Like that's not a thing. And so like when people talk about like weightlifting shoes and say like, oh, that's a crutch. And I'm like, no, it's literally just a requirement.
Yeah. So it's literally what you want, like a sturdy, solid foundation
There's
shoe.
There's a reason for why they made those. Yeah.
That's how I feel about my pastor and me. We always get in conversations because he doesn't like people using chalk or straps for lifting. He's like, if you can't support it naturally, like you shouldn't lift it, kind of thing. Like he's like, you're not gonna find chalk in nature, like if you're moving rocks or whatever. You
can find like tree sap or like something sticky.
So pine tar. But he has a couple like on it certifications. Oddly enough, like before I even knew him, that's how he recognized me at my nephew's T-ball game, because I was wearing an On It shirt.
Oh, cool.
He's like, oh, like, because he was there supporting other kids from the church, and so we started talking about On It, and then he's like, yeah, he was with a company or a gym called like Grit Fitness around the Houston area, and they send a lot of people to like the High Rocks event, so they do a lot of that style of training. And like I said, he has a couple On It certifications. We get to talking, he's like, because I was talking about opening a gym in New Braunfels, and he's like, I'm a full-time pastor, like I'll be at the gym all the time, like I'll open it up for you, whatever. I was like, heck yeah, that'd be great. He's like, yeah, but we're, no chalk and no straps. I was like,
wait,
nope.
What's his issue with chalk?
Well, it's just the kind of thing, like if you can't naturally carry it, like.
But what if your hands get sweaty?
I know, and also like I was trying. So with the straps, I was trying to tell him, I was like, I'm not training grip strength when I'm using traps. I'm training my glutes
Everything
or my hamstrings, and I'm whatever.
There's a certain point where your hands can't keep up, but like everything else can. So like, you can get great adaptation from using straps.
I know.
Obviously, you're not going to do it functionally, like you're not doing a workout, but like to train those specific muscles, that's sometimes the only way that you can.
Right. I'm not going to climb a tree with straps like I would do pull-ups with a strap or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that was kind of his argument.
Oh.
Like he wanted it to be like more natural, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Great guy though, Randy. Sorry.
Sorry, Randy.
Sorry, Randy. He's awesome. I'm gonna have him on the podcast because he's really interesting. Do you go to church here in Austin?
I go to Red Rocks.
Oh, nice. I know a lot of people that go to Red Rocks. I know the Palms, Lane and Taylor.
Yeah.
Have you seen their, of course you've seen their baby.
Yeah. He's the cutest baby.
So cute.
I don't think most babies are cute. Like I think they're kind of like weird looking.
I agree.
But that one is cute.
Adorable.
That one is really cute.
Yeah. The weird thing is because they're both like so Midwestern looking and blonde, blue-eyed.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, well, I don't know who the baby looks like because it just looks like an odd little smudge of both of you.
Yeah. That baby is gonna be like in the NFL in like a couple of weeks. He's huge.
Oh, he's massive. Yeah. He's a thickie.
They're gonna call soon.
Yeah. I kept telling them they should name him Nicholas because it's a powerful name, but they didn't.
Super powerful.
Yeah.
Love it.
It means victory of the people. So simmer down.
Of course it does.
Yeah, it's weird. But yeah, they're great people. I knew a couple other people went to Red Rocks as well.
Yeah, I really like the church there. It's The pastors are young, and so a lot of what they talk about is like relatable. It's like I grew up, going to a Baptist church where the pastor's like 65 and is talking like either
Did he
reading.
wear anything?
I
Like
mean,
a robe or
no,
anything?
no,
Okay,
not
wasn't
like
that.
Just like a pastel button down and khakis. But he would either read straight out of the Bible or be talking about something that like my 13-year-old brain could just not comprehend.
Yeah.
And so that was like the churches that I grew up going to. And like I went to youth group, so that was better because that was like more geared towards me. But as I got older, like I loved the church that I went to in college. And Red Rocks is a lot similar to that. So
nice.
Like young pastors, like, cutting jokes during the sermon to keep you engaged, like talking about things that are super relevant to like today's like day and age. So yeah, I really like that church. I used to serve there before I moved. So I'm hoping to get back into that.
Very nice.
I was on the safety team.
I'm on the safety team
at
my church. Yeah.
When they were like, "Oh, why do you want to be on the safety team?" When I was like filling out the application, I was like, not because I have literally any skills that would benefit the safety team, just because like I like being in like, the background. Like I don't necessarily want to be a greeter, just because I don't know. I just like greeting is not sort of my style. I'd much rather be like in the shadows, just like watching. Yeah. I was like, at least I look intimidating. If nothing else, I will look the part.
Yeah. I thought you were just looking to beat people up in the name of the Lord.
No. If something actually happened, I would just radio and be like, someone come, something's happening. Like that's the only thing I would do. But that's the only thing you're supposed to do. But it was funny because I was like, I don't have any actual safety skills, but I feel like I'm pretty observant. And I want to be.
That's huge, honestly.
Just in the back,
awareness,
in the dark. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to be alone in the dark.
Yeah.
The exact opposite reason you go to church.
Exactly. Yeah. No.
I want to be alone in the dark. No,
even
that's not
when
why
I
you
go
to
to church, I like sit like in the last row almost always, and like in the corner.
I always sit up in the very front to try to make it awkward for my pastor because he's a good friend of mine. We go golfing now.
Oh, like make faces.
Yeah, and there's been times like he'll tell stories in church, and I know he's talking about me. I'm like, this guy. Yeah.
Hopefully, good stories.
Yeah, well, I didn't know how to use a QR code one time that he sent me. And he's like, I got millennials in here that don't know how to use QR codes. And I was like, sweet. But on my safety team at church, well, first of all, I really got intrigued with it after I did Tim Kennedy's sheepdog response course.
Oh, did Claire go to that?
She has done one. Yeah. We weren't at the same one, but she's done it before.
Yeah, I remember her talking about it.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's 2.5 days. The first night it's classroom. It's all situational awareness and like the difference between being like observant and profiling and like what's called a OODA loop and
that's cool.
Yeah, really cool information. And then the next 2 days are the same as far as you start off with like 5 hours of jujitsu on the mats.
Oh, geez.
And most of it's like it's taught by like they're all like black belts, like they're all killers. One of the guys was in the UFC, but they're all special forces guys. So it's all very much like applicable stuff that you're doing. You're not learning to throw up like wild triangle chokes or a Peruvian necktie or anything like that. Like it's all street applicable for someone that doesn't have jiu-jitsu knowledge.
Okay.
So 5 hours each morning of jiu-jitsu, and then you have an hour-long lunch, which didn't really count because it took you like 54 minutes to drive from the jiu-jitsu place to the shooting range. So you basically just had to eat on the go.
Yeah.
And then the next 5 hours you'd spend at the shooting range and work on pistol proficiency. And like the second day was really cool because you get to like run behind like an embankment or like a barrier and like shoot from behind it, and they'll call out targets, and then you like pop out and shoot the target and pop back in.
That's cool.
Yeah, really, really cool stuff. And after I did it, I was like, everyone of every age, both genders, should be doing this.
Yeah.
And so after I did that, I talked to my pastor because yes, it's where I go to church and it's people that I genuinely care about, but also like both my nephews and my sister go to church there. And I was like, all right, cool. Like I want to serve at the services that they're going to, because if I'm going to leave their protection in anybody's hands other than the Lord's, I want it to be my hands because I feel like I'm proficient. And also I've done combat sports for several years now. And what's funny is I go to a very small country church down in New Braunfels. And so I go talk to the head of the safety team. And first thing he asked me is like, well, what kind of pistol do you carry? And I was like, nice, this is going to be good. Yeah, so it's been great. I'm right now I'm kind of like a sub.
Okay.
Yeah, because they have like a full safety team, so they'll text like, "Hey, so and so's out of town. Can you work front door for the noon service whenever?" I'm like, "All right, cool, yeah."
Yeah.
But it's fun. Yeah, and it's also like something that I feel because that church is growing quick. Like my pastor's doing such a good job. We have 3 services now. They just started in 2020 during COVID. And so they're like, hey, we need as much help as we can get, like in different departments. So that's one of the things where I'm doing, like, I'm like, all right, cool. It's another way for me to serve and feel like I'm protecting and doing a good job.
It's a cool option just because, like, I have been a greeter in the past, but not quite my personality. And then I also have been, like, someone in the parking lot, like, helping people park. And I was like, I can't even park my own car. I do not need to be out here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. That's two things that you're bad at. Because when you worked in front of a house and on it, you were awkward. But no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But no, like
it was the morning time, I was tired. I'm not myself until like 10:30.
And you'd start at 5 a.m. and you're not yourself till 10:30.
It was rough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically the whole shift.
Yeah, no, but I get that.
Someone else.
Yeah, because you're more on like the coaching side, and I get that for sure. Because I did the same thing when I started on it. I had to start in front of house.
Yeah.
But I'm a social butterfly, so for me it wasn't that big of an issue.
Yeah.
But I could see like sitting there and be like, hey.
Well, the only reason I did front desk is because I thought Ty would be there, and then he was never there. So I was like, I hate it here. I don't want to do this anymore.
I think I'm gonna have Ty on, and
oh my gosh, please.
I just want to get like pizzas from all over town, and then him and I just rate them as we record.
Ask him about his burger tour that he just did.
I didn't even have to ask him.
Okay.
He told me all about it.
I have all of the pictures, all of the reports, all of everything.
Apparently, Golden Tiger is one of the best. Culver's is a wild one. That's such a wild
that's what I
statement.
Was like, why?
Because that's a chain.
Yeah.
And it's like a Midwest chain. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, for him to say that that's his favorite burger in Austin is at Culver's.
It was like undeniable though.
Yeah,
he's
like it's a 10. And then he's like, Golden Tiger's a 9.8.
Yeah.
I forget.
Very specific.
Yeah, there was a couple other ones that he told me about. And I made like a little mental note because I have like his top 3, not including Culver's. I'll go to Culver's. I think I've been to one before. Like in a baseball tournament in Oklahoma or something.
Yeah, I've like driven by it. I don't know if I've ever like had a second thought about it though.
He doesn't stop having thoughts about it.
I guess not, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to have him on. He's hilarious. He's like
one of my favorite people in the world.
Sneaky smart. Like he's writing a book. Like
of course he is.
Yeah, he's a very interesting person. So like I want to bring him on the podcast, but I'm like, who's gonna listen?
A funny guy. I'll listen.
I know, right? Yeah. And that's what everyone at the gym's like, oh, Ty would be hilarious. And I'm like, yeah, because him and I have ridiculous conversations anyway. As
I know.
You know.
I've heard.
Yeah, you've been present for many.
I've heard. Yeah, Ty's the best. I still like every time I see Lane, I text him earlier and I'm like, are we gonna go on a hot girl walk today or what?
Nice.
Because he always has to get his like steps on his little Fitbit.
So funny.
Yeah.
Have you seen any of his powerlifting videos?
No.
Ask to see them.
Yeah.
Like they're pretty damn good. Like he did like actual powerlifting competitions.
No way.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
At like 180 pounds.
I've only ever seen him throw his kettlebell around in the dark.
Yeah, I know. He'll post videos of his workouts and it's just like silhouettes
of like. Turn the lights on?
Yeah. Do you not have lights? This looks like I'm watching a horror movie. He's just slamming a med ball side to side. I'm like, what are you doing?
What a guy.
And then gets his steps in and does his hill sprints and. Which is again is so wild, but he's also really smart when it comes to talking about training.
I know.
Like when I remember because he was I think a GA at Texas Tech.
Okay.
For strength and conditioning. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I don't know if you know who Michael Crabtree is. He's was a pretty big wide receiver coming out of Texas Tech.
Okay.
But I think he was there during those years.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he was a GA over there for strength and conditioning for the football team. So he definitely knows like his stuff when it comes to the S&C side of things. So it's always fun to have talks with him about that kind of stuff, and then also talks about food.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's his thing.
Yeah. What a guy.
What a guy. All right. Well, how about we tell the people where to find you, Hannah?
I'm on Instagram, H_black with 2 Ks. I also am running a remote weightlifting program called HV Lifting Co. It's geared towards people who either don't have a ton of experience Olympic weightlifting and want to get into it, or people who've been doing CrossFit for a while and feel like that's something that's holding them back, which like CrossFit-wise, Olympic lifting is probably some of your lowest hanging fruit that's holding you back from being able to do the workouts like as prescribed. So I write programs for that. And then I also, in the next couple of weeks, I'm getting into the YouTube scene. So
let's go.
Yeah, I had a girl follow me around actually at the games. to
Did you
kind of
know
record.
she was following you?
Yeah.
No, I'm just
No, I paid her.
I'm just playing.
Yeah, so she made a documentary out of the games for me. Obviously not the most upbeat video.
But also probably very interesting to see.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially given like the circumstances and kind of like what went on after that. So yeah, that'll be that should be finished here in a couple of weeks. So that's gonna like kickstart my YouTube channel. And then yeah.
And it's just gonna be a bunch of workouts after that, yeah?
Yeah, some workouts, some, I don't know, I want to get more into like the coaching aspect too on my YouTube channel, because trying to grow this Olympic weightlifting program is like one of the biggest like challenges I've faced. Is like, I don't want everyone to see me as like Hannah the athlete. Like I also want people to see me as Hannah the coach as well.
Yeah.
But since it's remote, like a lot of the things that I post on that account are of me, just because like all of my people are remote.
Right.
So it's hard to get content, but I actually also started coaching a weightlifting class at Sola CrossFit, the CrossFit gym that I'm going to.
Okay.
So if you're local to Austin and you want to lift, Sola CrossFit offers weightlifting Wednesdays at 5:30.
Come check out Hannah Black.
Yeah, come work out with me.
Yeah, you're a good coach. I always like listening to you coach. I would intentionally like do my workouts and not just because Allie was in your class, but I would intentionally come do my workouts out there while you're coaching, just to kind of listen to you, because I would kind of hope you would slip up just to jokingly like mess with you, because you know I like to poke at you.
Put it in your back pocket.
Yeah, I'd be like, by the way, you said this when you meant that. But no, you're a very good coach, and I mean, obviously you're smart, you're educated, you went to school to be proficient at what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it was cool. It was cool to watch you coach, especially because our workouts, I always describe the On It gym small group workouts as like CrossFit tempo, but not no barbell Olympic lifts.
Yeah.
You do like kettlebell snatch or kettlebell clean, which are very different. But it was always fun to hear you coach.
Thank you. I try to like, the easiest way for me, and some people think this is weird, but it's what works for me, is like break things down like to a physics perspective, because it's like that's like the most basic, like you're trying to produce force to do a job.
Yeah.
And so like, how do you do that? In what direction, you know, like what pattern and stuff like that. And so sometimes I'll say like too many things. Like I'll like throw the word inertia out, and people
you can't
be
throw
like,
inertia out of
I know,
people?
well, I just get excited, you know, because I'm like
such a dork.
And people are like, hold on a second. And then like, okay, wait. But that's like, because of my background, I feel like that's the easiest way to explain it. And honestly, people appreciate being able to understand something from like the most basic in terms, because like some people, like especially CrossFit people, will start to like, you know, like say things too much, just like, oh, your kip and like your hollow position, like blah blah blah. I'm like, you are point A, you're trying to get to point B, this is what you have to do in between. So like that seems to be the easiest. So
yeah, as long as you don't throw around inertia or big words like that.
No more inertia.
I know, it's funny. I've known some really good coaches that were just too smart for their own good.
It's, well, if what you're delivering isn't hitting, because you're like
has to be
going over
digestible.
The head. Yeah, well, that's a ton of time spent in school and grad school and biomechanics, is like, how do I make these data points make sense to anyone? Because like we actually worked with a lot of baseball guys too, because my brother pitched in the minor leagues for a really long time.
How did I not know this?
I feel like I've told you this.
You've never told me this.
He went to East Carolina University and played baseball, and then got drafted.
By who?
By the Diamondbacks at first.
Oh, yeah.
And then got traded a couple of times, then went into the independent ball league. Nice. And then hung it up. Finally.
It's a very common route. So few of us make it.
Yeah, right. And then now he's a scout for the Giants now.
Oh, that's sick. I'm gonna have to talk to you about that, because my mom is a huge Giants fan.
Really?
Yeah, she loves it. One of my best friends played for the Giants.
Really?
A kid that I went to high school with, Matt Moore. He's with the Angels now.
That name sounds familiar.
He was a starter with Tampa. He was an all-star his second year in the league, and then had some elbow issues, and then came back, pitched really well for the Giants as a starter. In fact, he pitched against the Cubs the year the Cubs won it. I'm a huge Cubs fan. The year they won it in 2016 in the National Championship Series, like deep in the playoffs, the round before the World Series. I think it was that round. But he pitched against the Cubs, and I was so torn. So I was like, man, I fucking love Matt, but I was like, I'm a huge Cubs fan. The Cubs hadn't won the World Series since 1908. So definitely the first time in my lifetime. Believe I'm not that old. that I would have seen it. So I was like, but the game went perfectly because he went 8 1/3. I think he only gave up 1 run. The Giants were winning when they took him out of the game, but then the bullpen blew it. Yeah, the bullpen blew it. So I was like, let's go. Matt pitched great. Cubs won.
Yeah.
Perfect game.
Yeah, but my brother's a scout for the Giants.
Nice.
But when I was in college, him and some of his buddies that were on like his minor league teams would come, and we would use biomechanics basically to measure all sorts of things. And so some of the guys that he brought for us to test are now like Major League Baseball players.
That's awesome.
But the hardest part of all of this was not recording the data and like, like doing all those things. It was just explaining it to them because they, some of these guys didn't even go to college, which is like fine. Like they're crushing it in the big leagues. But
yeah, they're making more money than the people doing the studies.
Do you explain, like all of these things to someone who, like just doesn't have that background?
Sure.
So that was like one of the biggest barriers that I had to figure out is like, okay, this is really important and they need to know how important it is, but I can't use the words that I'm like thinking of defining it, but I have to like figure it out. So it's like, you figure it out, but that is definitely a huge challenge going through school like that because you learn obviously like the textbook way and like and then you're giving it to people who don't have that background.
So I'm a big, and I'm kind of piggybacking off that sentiment. I'm a big fan of like strong female coaches. Like I think we need more of them because I think as a person that has 3 sisters and my mom that I would love to see more in the gym, there's an obvious intimidation factor for a lot of women to go into the gym.
Right.
So that's why I like seeing like women coaches that are really good. Like the girl that I've been dating up in Fort Worth, like she's an excellent coach and I wish she would coach more. But like when you're coaching and you feel yourself getting wordy, is there part of you in the back of your mind that you're like worried, like, do they think I'm getting too wordy to prove that I'm smart because I'm a female?
I wouldn't say like I have a chip on my shoulder, but I didn't think that like female bias was a thing in the strength world because I just never had experienced it. Because like all the gyms that I grew up in were always like all my coaches was like, you have just as many opportunities as the boys do, if not more. And so I never saw it until I started coaching CrossFit in Santa Barbara.
No way.
I had a few, like older men that, side note, did not lift more than me.
Throw that in there, little stab.
That would not necessarily, like not listen to me and then go to one of the guy coaches that were like just happened to be in the gym and be like, hey, what am I doing wrong? Like, why isn't this going well? And the head coach there, it happened. I told one of the guys like, hey, like you're doing this. I need you to do it this way. And he stopped and went to the head guy coach and was like, she keeps saying that I'm doing this, but like it, blah, 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 blah. And the head guy coach was like, Hannah, what did you say? Like he wasn't doing right. And I said, the right answer.
Yeah.
And the head coach was like, looked at the guy and was like, if you ever do that again, you are out of this gym.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. So he was a homie. So that was the first time like I actually experienced it just because I was like, why would anyone treat me any differently? Like I've done the same things. I've probably done more than most guy coaches.
Oh yeah.
I have more experience like actually like as an athlete.
Not only as an athlete, but as like school-wise.
Yeah. And so it just was like shocking to me that would ever even be a thing. But it does happen. And so I think I find myself more wanting to like show them that I can do it so that I'm not just talking about it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because to me, and I know this isn't always the case, but like to me is like, if you can do it and then you're trying to teach me to do it, like I automatically have like a little bit more respect for you because like you know how to do it. And I'm trying to learn how to do it. So like that makes sense. But I have had coaches that can't do what they're telling me to do, but are incredible coaches. So I'm not taking away from that. But I always like find myself like wanting to like actually do it to the point where I've like deadlifted like 225 cold because I'm trying to tell you how to do it and you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you like believe me in what I'm saying or like what, but there was a point where I was coaching at one of the old gyms I coached at called Athletic Outcomes. And there was a guy on a rower and he had the rower damper on 10 and he was trying to get max amount of meters that he could get in 2 minutes. And I was like, dude, you cannot put the damper on 10. Like, don't do that again. And I like put it down to 5. And then the next round he had it back on 10. And I was like, you know what? I'm in a row beside you on a 5 and I'm going to beat you by a lot.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have to go like on a 5.
Shame.
I was like, if I beat you, will you row at a 5? And he was like, yeah, deal. It, of course, smoked him because he doesn't know how a rower works. And he also had some technical issues. It was like, I find myself wanting to like just do it because I'm like, that if I do it afterwards, like you have nothing to say.
Right.
I can explain all day long and like, you know, like try to use big words or use different things like for you to get it. But if I just do it, then I feel like no one can talk about
it.
So
it was so funny. The other day, coaching, we were doing like med ball over the shoulder or sandbag carries over the shoulder. And I was demoing and there was no med balls anywhere around me or sandbags anywhere around me except for one. And I didn't really like pay attention to it.
It's probably the biggest one.
I grabbed it, and as soon as I picked it up, I was like, well, I can't bitch out now because I'm in the middle of demoing.
No, you have to do it.
Yeah, so I went and I threw it over my shoulder, and I was like, you know, it didn't feel great. And then like after I like explained it, I was like, all right, this is the rest of the workout we're doing for this block. Any questions? No, all right, cool, let's go. And I turned around and looked, and it was like just 150.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. I was like, I'm such an idiot. Like, no wonder I had a hernia.
Oh, no. That is one thing. Like when I would coach it on it, if I was gonna do a demo, I'd make sure that I had a medium weight.
I always try to.
Not a super heavy one, just because, not because I can't do it, but just because I don't want to make anyone's dad feel bad about themselves. Like I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not here to show off. I'm here to coach. So I would get like a medium weight one that like a stronger girl could do, or, you know, like your typical guy could do. But yeah, that's always like, I would always think about that before. I'm like, I don't want to make anyone feel bad. So just grab something in the middle.
That's hilarious. Well, cool. Glad you're getting back into the coaching scene. I look forward to seeing your YouTube content.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Yeah. It's been fun. We'll have to have you back on.
Yeah. I'd love to.
All right, cool. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in to the Lions Pit podcast. Again, I'm your host, Nick Gomez. This is Hannah Black. Catch her on Instagram at H_Black with 2 Ks.
2 Ks.
All right. And then look out for her YouTube content. Thanks, guys. Shout out to the fine folks at LSKD for producing or for giving us the best workout equipment that there is. Shout out to Allie Holcomb for hooking it up. She's a real one. And we'll see you guys next time.